My name is Chris, and I'm here to go through something that I feel is very, very important and essential at the moment. We're now in mid March, and most people are aware that their household bills are going to be increasing come April. And of course, they've been increasing for a long time. And there is a real cost of living crisis, which is affecting more and more people in society. So, what I'm going to do is hopefully provide you with a very, very useful tool to help you in terms of budgeting. How many people know how much they need in terms of income and whatever that income's made of, whether that's earnings, whether that's benefits, whether that's pensions, over the next 12 months to make sure that they survive? So, this is like a kind of a personal survival budget, but it's my version of it. And I do one of these every year and I regularly update it just so I feel like I'm in a bit more control in terms of knowing what our household income needs to be over the next 12 months. So I'm going to do this, I'm going to take you through a very step process in terms of this in different parts at a time, and just you actually use your own version or you adopt what you feel is right for you. This is, as I say, the version that I use, and I find it very useful. It's made up of lots of different elements that I can change and look at and regularly update. And that's one of the key things, is to regularly update this. What this isn't is any kind of comparison site or comparison information. There are obviously lots of different comparison sites and different people, like the money saving expert, etc., etc. There's other ones out there that can provide you with information about how you save money. This is about understanding how much you need for the next 12 months so you know what your outgoings are and what your income is. So this is, I've got a number of tabs here, as you can see at the bottom of the spreadsheet. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through each individual tab with you a bit at a time, just to explain how you can build this up from scratch. A final, very comprehensive set of figures and financial understanding of your personal survival budget. A couple of other things, obviously, people's outgoings are all different in terms of not just the amounts, but in terms of what they spend money on. So this isn't going to be necessarily the same for everybody. It's what I use and is typical for us. But obviously, you're going to have to put your own headings in. Some of them should be the same. There's food in there. Um, there's gas, electricity, there's water, there's council tax, and a whole load of other things, mortgage or rent. So obviously, I'm not going to go into each individual heading because some will apply and some won't. So you've got to make sure you tailor it to your own budgeting circumstances. So this is really just a take through of what it is. And like I say, I'm going to build up this nice and slowly. Obviously, you can see there's lots of different parts of information there. I'm going to start off with the very basics. So what I've done, this is obviously April 25 to March 26. So that's the first thing. I do it on a full 12 months. Obviously, April is the start because it's a number start of the year for a number of things. And obviously, April, as we know, is a month where particular bills go up. Again, you can put your own 12-month um, uh, time period on there. That's up to you. That's what I've always done every year, is look at April to March. There's no hard and fast rule in terms of that. So the first thing is I'm just going to put some basic figures in, and then I'm going to explain how those figures have come about. So obviously having things like a bank statement to hand, but not everybody uses every cost or everybody's expense goes out through a bank account. There are plenty of people and more people who are using cash to pay for things. I think the key thing is be honest with yourself in terms of, putting down the easiest thing to do is, well, I don't really, pay that out, but we don't have to include that. If you really want to know what you need to survive, then you need to be honest with yourself in terms of everything that you spend out. Obviously, there are things on there that you might not necessarily need, and we can talk a little bit about that later on. So I'm just going to put some figures in initially. I'm not going to explain those figures, and then we'll have a discussion around that. And some of these are kind of rounded up, they're approximate figures, because obviously the TV license, you can find out how much TV license is, but obviously most of the figures will be personal to yourselves as such. Obviously, if you cover costs that are family costs, so you might have mobile phones that you're paying for children or other family relatives, put that in. But as I say, it's very much individual to your actual circumstances. Obviously, there are a variety of insurances you may or may not have. You may have loans, you may not have loans. Credit cards are further down in terms of this. I'd include hire purchase and stuff like that as well. Income protection is a very specific policy that people, again, may or may not have. This is not to advocate that. Not everybody's got a pet, but again, be honest in terms of making sure that you cover all of your pet costs there that you know you're going to pay out for, not just, obviously some people don't insure their pets, people do. Obviously, pets need to eat, they may need treatments, annual jabs, and they may not do. So, again, it's very specific to the pets that you've got, and you might have some really low cost pets that don't cost that much to keep. So, yeah, it's very much dependent on your own sort of circumstances as such. Home insurance, I'm going to put the annual in. So most of these to date have been monthly figures. Obviously, sometimes you might pay out, like pet insurance, you might pay out annually or monthly, etc. So you can sort of vary that in terms of that. Obviously, insurances, again, people have a variety of insurance. Remember, things like car breakdown, in essence, is an insurance policy. That's why it's in there. But you might not have a vehicle, so you might replace that with something like bus fares or train fares. And this is personal. We'll come to business related in a little while just to cover that element of that. You might have a policy through a bank. You may not do. You may have one car. You may have two cars. So yes, it's just in terms of the approximate figures for some of these items. You may be able to get a discounted MOT if you get the service together. You may not do. So you can put it's probably often better to put what the full amount is. Things like car service and repairs. Again, obviously it's very difficult sometimes to know what they may be in the future, but it's worth putting in there. Again, it might be an annual figure. It might be a monthly figure. It's toiletries. I've got an index of food and toiletries. I tend to put a weekly figure in for that. Petrol's an interesting one, depends what kind of vehicle you got. Obviously, nowadays people got all kind of vehicles, so that could be the cost of the fuel, it could be the cost of the electricity. Of course, you could include that electricity into your gas and electricity costs because you build through that, or you can do it separately. Again, I put a weekly thing in there. Credit cards, I'm going to show you a little tool later on, but I'm just going to put a figure in there at the moment. Dentists and haircuts, I mean, again, it's very dependent, on how often you get your hair cut, whether somebody within the family in your own household cuts their hair, and what kind of, dentistry costs that you may have in terms of that, and how many people are in your household. So yeah, some of these things are very kind of variable in terms of that. Clubs closing, not everybody's got children, so that kind of is a bit of a line that catches other things. You might have Microsoft packages for the computer, so, and you might not do. They might have Office packages. So again, it's a very variable thing. And again, it's not necessarily about this individual figure. Don't get caught up on that. It's actually about the process of actually doing this is really useful. But as I say, be honest in terms of ensuring that you cover all the costs, all your expenses that you know about. So I've got a subtotal there. So I'm just going to put a formula in there, which is a sum formula. Those that are familiar with Excel can do it. There is also icons up above where you can do that. So this is not to teach people how to use Excel. It's there's some kind of understanding that Excel will be used. So there's a subtotal figure there, but obviously some of those are paid out over different time periods. They're not all. That 3475 is not your actual full outgoings. In fact, actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to just delete that figure because that figure is not very useful in terms of that side of it. So let's just delete that because that's not really needed, because some of those are yearly, some of those figures. So that's the first part of actually setting it up in terms of that side of things. And then I'm going to then copy that into a separate tab, and I'm going to go through that side of things as well. At the moment, I'm keeping out additional. So additional, I would class as things like work, travel, birthdays, and Christmas, and other things in additional. So it's an interesting one because personal fibre is what you need to survive. Of course, people change their jobs. A lot of people are hybrid working. Not everybody celebrates various festivals or times of the year, Christmas, but so you can put in whatever you feel is the most appropriate to put this together, in terms of that. Uh, you know, uh, Obviously there's a whole load of things. There's Easter coming up. So yeah, the additional would be something that actually would probably be additional cost to that. I mean, you might want to incorporate that into these, but these headings on the left here tend to be the headings that people need to survive. So hence a personal survival budget. But again, I accept that some of these things aren't necessarily needed. You might say, some people say, yes, I need life insurance, I need mortgage protection. Not everybody's got a mortgage. And again, the same with income protection. Not everybody's got a pet. So you can, you can take some of these things out. It's absolutely no problem. But be very honest in terms of what your spending is to make sure that this is accurate. Because the worst thing to do is go, well, that's how much you need over 12 months. And then you come 6 months, you go, well, I seem to be not matching that. So that's the first part of this sort of, I suppose, what we call a tutorial. And then we'll go on to the next part to start nice and slowly.